Okay. Go ahead and say hi as you're hopping on, as always. It's beautiful. I would show you if I were using my phone, but I have incense today. I know I like to burn sage like before we start a lot, but today I have incense going and it's just lovely. Friend gave me this incense and it's awesome. So feel free to say hello as you hop on. Let me know how your day is going. I was gonna say my week has been crazy. It's Monday. um, no, it's just been a kind of weird, crazy time. I know I've definitely been in a time of energetic shifts, and whenever that happens, things are just like weird. Like you're forgetting what day it is. Uh, like all of the chaos is happening, especially when you're starting to like manifest the things that you desire. It's just like all of a sudden, it's like, did I desire a dumpster fire? No, but and we talk about this all the time in here. This is how it goes for other reasons. You're not doing anything wrong, you're doing something right. So craziness ensues. Isn't that fun? So that's just kind of the state I have been in. And I'm gonna get talking here in a second about connectedness. I don't know if that's a word, and I think it is. Being connected, living a connected life. And then if you'll stick around at the end, I'm going to remind you guys about the event we have coming up. I'm so excited, and we're going to talk a little bit more about some opportunities to go or to work with me in other ways. So that'll be at the end. But yeah, okay, let's go ahead and jump in. If you are new here, hi, I'm Lauren. I am a personal development coach, and I really help people who are at big turning points in their life or are especially at the beginning parts of their healing journey. Maybe they have a lot of emotional sort of weight that they're carrying, and they sort of feel like their emotions are rocking them or controlling them. And so I help these people to learn how to take their power out of that situation, because like all of us have our own power within us. So I want to help you see where that is and how to own it. And how to find freedom in your emotions. It's not freedom from your emotions, it's freedom in them, because none of us are really ever going to live a life of just not feeling bad things. But we sort of take that idea of negative or low vibe away from being like a bad or scary thing. And instead we learn how we can use these experiences in like a really amazing and beautiful way. So if you're new, welcome. And if you're returning, thank you for being here. All right. So let's talk about being connected. So this is a word I use a lot. This is one of my big words, connection, feeling connected. And I think it's probably important to everyone. But how you approach connection and truly being connected, or how you may think of, what it is, or if you want it and things like that, have a whole lot to do about whatever wounding you have in you, which mostly came to us from when we were very young children. And some people had like a really healthy connection in childhood, or attachment. If you guys are interested in attachment styles, I've been obsessed with that lately. But most of us just didn't. And so, first and foremost, let's take all the judgment away from that. We're not judging our parents or our caretakers. We're not judging ourselves. We really need to first get comfortable with whatever truth there is in that. This isn't about anyone doing something wrong or being a bad person. This is just kind of something that at least the people alive on Earth right now are collectively going through. And it can play out in a lot of different ways. And I think it's really interesting and beautiful when you do see a kind of trend of disconnection in this case, or maybe it's something totally different. Maybe it's, a social issue, or there are all kinds of issues, right, that are sort of generational or multi-generational, or just a chunk of time where it's like, wow, why are we all going through this? But I think it's really cool and interesting because it shows, humans are always growing and evolving and changing, and so this is kind of just the moment in time we're at right now. So kind of think of it that way, and hopefully that helps you take a little bit of your judgment off of that. So the first thing I want to talk about when it comes to being connected is the connection within yourself. Because really what we all want, honestly, is connection with others. We want to feel connected to other humans, right? And this is like an essential core part of being. Whether you were, alive thousands of years ago and this was the tribe mind, or whether it's today in 2022 and you're looking for a meaningful relationship or friendship or familial connections, being connected has always been important. And we talk about sort of ancestral beliefs and traumas and things that get passed down to us through our families, or things that get passed down to like all of us, just because, excuse me, when we were in that tribe mind, it was more of a survival technique versus now it might be more emotional, but we still have that survival messaging like in our DNA, all of us. And then on top of that, you have whatever is in your family line, and then on top of that, you have whatever is in your personal life from childhood. So from the beginning of time, it's important to be connected to others. Being connected to others, being accepted by others, meant that you were safe, fed, housed, and, I think they probably had emotional needs even back when people were cave people, right? I mean, we can look at some of the evidence of life back then and see that those people were mostly monogamous. So, probably connection was always important to some extent. I'm so sorry. I'm going to be like, my throat's been I've had a little cough. That's the word. But I really wanted to be here tonight because I know I've missed some weeks recently with my fun and fabulous life. I'm like constantly like, can you believe it? But then also in the crazy, like, can you believe it kind of way from day to day. But that's, like I mentioned earlier, that's how it feels shifting into a new paradigm. So anyways, didn't want to skip tonight. So okay, we talk about why connection is important. You get it, right? You might think like, I don't need anybody, or what I hear a lot is, I hate people. And I really, like, those kind of memes and jokes and stuff are, like, they can be funny or whatever, but at the end of the day, I don't really enjoy seeing that messaging anymore, that I hate people thing, because you don't. And when I see that, I'm just like, that is wounding. Even if you're using it as humor, like, that's a wound speaking. So, where do we begin with this? Well, before we even talk about let me put this on Do Not Disturb, I forgot. Okay, before we even talk about how to foster connection with other people, we need to be connected to ourselves. And I know you're probably like, what does that mean? Whatever, self-love, like, I know myself, duh, I know me better than anyone knows me, you're probably thinking, right? Maybe not. So, several weeks ago, we kind of spent some time talking about, you can do nice things for yourself, but that's not necessarily self-love or self-care. We talked about needing to respect yourself and having your own back, right? So, taking that a step further, okay, well, we talked about that, and I've been working on it since then. I respect myself, and I have my back. Now we move into this phase of, do I really know myself? How do I really feel connected with myself? Is this just like meditating? Is this taking a walk in nature? Well, sure. Those things can certainly be like great exercises. But obviously, it's never really that simple, right? If it were, we would all be meditating, walking in nature, and making $1 million and having amazing relationships. Unfortunately, that is not how it goes. Being connected with yourself is being able to tune out all of the noise always going around. And when I say tune out the noise, I don't mean that you don't. Oh, Jester's talking about astrology. Astrology is a great place to start getting to know yourself. I absolutely agree. I love using astrology, human design. Which, full disclosure, I know almost nothing about human design, but it's something that I'm trying to learn more. If you teach human design, drop it in the comments. I'm gonna spell tea everywhere, y'all. This day. And I even am interested in, some of the personality stuff on the more psychology side as well. Like we talked about a minute ago, attachment styles. I think these are all really great ways to say, here are some pinpoints of who I am. And maybe just like an outline, I like to think of it as. And not every single aspect of every single one is going to apply to every single person, because they're all influenced by each other. And so that can be a great place to start. But what it really looks like to truly be connected with yourself is to really be able to be present deep within yourself, no matter what's going on around you. So this isn't like, oh, I can't have technology, or oh, I can't have friends around, or I can't play music, or listen to TV. I sit in silence. It's not that at all. It's that you can be in the midst of all that and you are still able to feel your soul in connection with your oh, I'm sorry, this is so much worse than I expected. I think the smoke is not helping me. In connection with your body, your soul, your body, and your mind, right? So one thing that this can look like is knowing what you want. And I don't just mean what you want to do with your life, big picture, because that's a big question, right? This can be as simple as earlier I was invited to participate in something, and I had to check in with myself and just say, do I want to do that? Or I have been invited to events, and technically I was free on that day, but I have a pretty busy life, and there are a lot of things I want to do with my life. And so when a group of friends invites me to do something and I happen to be free on that day, I'm not just saying, yeah, I'm free, I'll be there. Instead, I am checking in with myself. My soul, my spirit is there, so I'm able to just ask, do you want to do this? And it can be, being really present in the moment, observing the physical world around you, taking that in, and starting to understand what you enjoy, getting rid of obligation. So those are kind of the pleasant sides of being connected with yourself. But being connected also means you get to see all the ugliest parts of yourself too. Isn't that fun? So the more that you are going to be able to see the parts of yourself, and I say ugly because we don't want to look at them, when really these things about ourselves aren't ugly. They're just human. But the more you get to see those shadow parts of yourself, this is why we call things shadow work, the dark parts of yourself, the more you get to see the amazing things about yourself. So if you can really look at yourself and say, man, I can be really impulsive, maybe. Maybe that's your thing. And like, this is why I'm being impulsive. This is where it's coming from. You start to understand yourself better, and you're going to see like the amazing, beautiful side to that. And that is like, I am a risk taker. I am someone who goes out and gets it. I don't wait for anyone else's permission. Like, those things are really awesome traits, right? So, getting connected with that sort of more shadow side of yourself is going to allow you to really enjoy and accept and notice the amazing things too. I mean, you're only going to go as deep as you let yourself go. Now, because we are really here to talk about being connected with others, this is kind of the moment where I say, you only go as deep as you allow yourself to go with yourself. And that is also exactly how deep you are able to go with others. Now, if you are making connections with other people who are not connected with themselves, you're going to meet at the highest possible level, right? If they go this deep and you go this deep, you're meeting this deep. They are incapable of connecting down here. And so a portion of having those deep connections is going to be choosing who to have them with, when to have them, why to have them, what kind of connections to have with these people. But, as always, it all begins with yourself. So, this is not like, we hear all the time about like, you have to love yourself before you can love anyone else, or you have to love yourself before anyone will love you, or whatever that stupid quote is, right? It's not that. This is not a one-time lesson, because you are such a deep and boundless and nuanced and beautiful and changing person that being connected with yourself is a lifelong practice, and it's going to go deeper and deeper and deeper. I mean, think about the connection that you would have with a baby versus the connection you would have with a 20-year-old. The baby can't speak to you. So you and the baby can connect on these particular levels, but that baby can't tell you, about their hopes and dreams, right? And that's the same with yourself. It's going to keep going as you live. This is not like a straight, easy path with a finish line, and then you get your degree, and then now you can date others, or now you can have friendships. Like, it's just not how it works. So, nothing wrong with learning as you go. You do not need to deprive yourself of, relationships, friendships, or connections. God, I'm so sorry. As you deepen this practice within yourself. So what I said about choosing partners who are at a level you're at, right? So the funny thing about deepening your connection with yourself is the deeper that you do go with yourself, and I said the deeper that means you're able to go with others, the less that you'll need to go deep with others. When we're really in deep connection with ourselves, we're constantly receiving good judgment. It's not something that we necessarily always have to think about. this is kind of going to just become your way of living. But also, deeper isn't like a better person. And so you might be a super self-connected person who is really destined to meet someone who's really disconnected. A friend, a partner, family member, whatever. And the first thing you need to know is you cannot force that person to go deeper or become connected. But, you know, keep that practice within yourself and let that person, watch that person sort of meet you there, right? And you can talk to that person too about your experience, what it's like, what you observe with each other. But I wouldn't necessarily sweat it about, am I going to choose the wrong people? This is something that I'll say 100 times in here, maybe more. You're going to choose the people that you're meant to. You're going to choose the people that you will learn from. Whether that's a lesson or a lifetime or an experience, it doesn't matter. Like, we need all of those things on our journey. The purpose of our lives is not just to have fun. So, with that worry kind of out of the way, let's say you are someone, maybe you're the one who is not quite as deep as the person you're trying to connect with, right? And you're like, okay, this is why I'm here. I want to know, how do I get to that level? How can I foster true connection with people? Or maybe you think you're putting out a great connection and it's not being met. Like, you think you're putting out great energy and it's just like not intermingling with the other person. Okay. So if that's where you're at, let's talk about what makes up great connection. So, the one thing you cannot have connection without, across the board, with anyone, including yourself, is vulnerability. And vulnerability is taking your guard down. Vulnerability is putting yourself in a position where you could get hurt, right? And when you do that and you're vulnerable with another person or yourself, that means you're trusting that person not to hurt you. And don't we all want to trust and be trusted? That's a great part of the foundation of connection, because you also can't have connection without trust. Trust and vulnerability. So, sometimes I think many of us can think we're being vulnerable when actually we're doing the opposite. This is something that I was so guilty of. So, this was mind-blowing for me. If you are immediately meeting people and off the bat, you're making self-deprecating jokes, you are talking bad about yourself, you are talking about traumatic experiences in your life, with the exception that, of course, sometimes that's the natural thing to do, but, like, you know, I'm talking about instances where, and this has truly happened in front of me, someone's just like, haha, childhood trauma, okay. Or you're sort of maybe oversharing about your mental health diagnosis, your family life, you know, things that a stranger is not necessarily the person to tell. That can, in our minds, that can feel like, oh, that's vulnerability, for sure. That's the most vulnerable. I'm so vulnerable because, you know, I barely even know this person and I'm already telling them everything there's to know about me. I'm telling them the worst thing about myself. I'm telling them how terrible I am. I'm giving them the power to absolutely reject me. Or are you trying to play a rejection cycle? Are you trying to do a trauma loop where you have a rejection wound? So you're not presenting the best version of yourself. You're not coming in there and telling this person about, you know, I won a poetry contest, or, you know, I was on this television program for my awesome whatever skill, or I built the smartest robot in town. I don't know. I'm coming up with awful examples. I'm so sorry. You know, you're not sharing anything you're proud of. You're sharing the parts of yourself you would like to throw away, and you're dumping them on a person. So essentially, that is what you're doing. You're taking parts of yourself and you're saying, this is trash, and I'm going to give you trash. Someone who I don't know well enough. Someone who I truly don't trust to hold me. Someone who is not here to support and love me. I'm going to give my trash to, and that is what you are doing energetically. You're not being vulnerable. You're not seeking support or connection with this person. You're maybe seeking attention. You're seeking to be heard in some way. But this isn't vulnerability or connection. And so you're like, how is it not vulnerability to share your weaknesses with someone? Because they're not really your weaknesses if you're able to share them off the bat like that. Like I said, they're your trash. If it were something that, you know, were really and truly a deep wound within you, you would absolutely not be able to just give that power to a total, like, new person to, you know, break you down. So sometimes it can kind of feel like a cheap, artificial sort of connection. Brene Brown talks about this. She says hot wiring a connection, I think is how she says it. In I think it's in Daring Greatly. I just read all her books. I forget which one's which. And so the point is that when you do this, you think, okay, well, I'm giving my trash to someone. That means I don't have to hold it for a second. Someone else is going to take my trash. 1. 2, it's going to seem like, you know, I'm being vulnerable because I'm sharing. So that means this person's going to like me. And they're going to think I'm honest and upfront and genuine. And 3, this tactic's not going to work every time. And you know that. So maybe this is happening with people that you have a subliminal message are maybe coming from the same sort of background. And you're like, I don't have subliminal messaging. I'm not psychic. You are. No, but we notice things, and we have been doing this since the dawn of time. We notice characteristics about people that stick inside of us that are familiar, and those characteristics inform who we think that person is, what they could mean to us, or if they're like us. So I'm going to tell you, like, for me, a very easy one in my past would be, like, if I wanted to dump my trash, overshare, hotwire connection, it was going to be with probably a woman around my age. She probably had colorful hair or tattoos. Maybe there's some kind of evidence, like a t-shirt or pins or something, that she listens to, like, emo music, or, you know, the kind of music I like. And so I'm not looking at her and thinking, like, sick, she's got tattoos, that means she wants to talk about trauma. But my brain, it's an undeniable pattern. I mean, I have so many friends who look nothing like that. My true friendships, like the ones that have lasted, the ones where I didn't dump everything up front, the ones that I'm still friends with now, almost none of them fit that profile. And they're all different. So it's very easy for me to look back at that pattern and say, oh, okay, so I was looking for girls who reminded me of when I was younger myself, so that I could share my younger self with them. And it wouldn't be judged. And they would have positive, affirming things to say. And there you go. Because when someone gives you affirmation, it can feel an awful lot like connection. You can be like, we bonded over our similar pasts. But bonding isn't the same thing as being connected. I'm sure you guys have heard the term trauma bond. That's like a hot buzzword right now, but it's a thing. It's not bonding over traumas, it's bonding in traumas. And that can also come off of this same sort of a pattern. We can attract that because when we're looking for partners who are like romantic partners, so I was talking about friendships right there, because I think friendships are where I did the most oversharing, and I think that's where most people do. But this can happen similarly too when we are trying to form new relationships. We're looking for people who feel familiar to us, who remind us of something that is unresolved within ourselves. And then when we see that, it feels like, oh, I know this person. Because you know so many elements of them, right? That's your younger self. That's your mother. That's your father. That's, this person who hurt you. That's your former best friend, whatever it might be. And so you feel comfortable with them. You feel like you know them, and you don't stop to actually get to know them. You can create bonds together that have nothing to do with connection. One of them can be trauma. Reliving that familiar thing in the back of your mind together. So, the oversharing bullet was a hard one for me to bite, because I have always called myself an oversharer. I've always said I have no filter, and that's mostly true. But when I realized that was robbing me of my connections, I got a filter. So now you might be saying, like, well, that's not fair, because I want to be myself. I want to share about my past. So you should. I don't want this to make you think connection means hiding a part of yourself. It just means bringing it out at an appropriate time. So I was recently talking to someone who really deeply struggles with connection, and that's kind of what inspired this talk today. And I've been close with this person for several years, and there are two main things that this person, well, really, if I'm cut down to it, there's one main thing that this person goes back to all the time. I mean, we could be talking about records, we could be talking about instruments, we could be talking about relationships, we could be talking about friendships, we could be talking about restaurants. And this topic can always come back. And it is that person's biggest trauma. Now, I don't mind hearing about that. When you care for someone, of course you don't mind hearing about that. You want to be there for them. You want to know them. And honestly, truly having a connection is truly knowing someone, which does include learning about their, you know, big traumas. But I said to that person, I said, I think that early on, your willingness to talk about this seemed a lot like vulnerability. But when I sit down with it and I look now at all of the time that we have spent talking about this one traumatic event in your life, think of all the time that's added up to. I just wonder, what would we have been talking about if it weren't that one thing? If you weren't sharing over and over again all of the little intricate aspects of the worst thing that ever happened to you, I mean, that means that's where you're living. That means that is where your energy is. Imagine if your energy were here and now, and you were connected with yourself now. Not just connected with something bad that happened to you. Imagine if you were really connected with yourself right now. What would you be talking about? If that thing had never happened to you, then maybe I would know, more things that you love, more things that you're passionate about. And actually, this person also didn't know that much about what they were passionate about. We had delved really deeply into one thing that they're passionate about. But you should have, and we all do when you get down to it, several passions. None of us are one-dimensional. None of us have only one path to our lives. And this person really and truly, just didn't know that about themselves. And I said, it's because you're still living in this event. You're still connecting to this version of you that was having that experience. And when you're there, you're not here. And so I can't be here with you. I know more about you before I knew you than I do about you right now. And the truth of the matter is, when you talk about the traumatic, negative things that happened to you or the mistakes that you made, you've already beat yourself up about it. You already have heard the negative comments people had to say. You've already taken the abuse. So you repeating it now, it's going to elicit, sympathy from people. People telling you, it wasn't your fault, or you should forgive yourself, or yada, yada, yada. It's actually extremely low risk. It's actually not vulnerable at all. Now, if you were here in the now, and you were to share something really vulnerable about yourself, it would probably be so much less consequential than this traumatic thing in your past. The truth is, it is far scarier and far more vulnerable to say, I dream of opening, a clothing store, or I would love to, sell my own line of frozen pizzas, or I really love making people laugh, and I have no idea how to make that a part of my life. And none of those things are ugly at all. We talk about getting vulnerable with yourself, and we talked about looking at the ugly parts of yourself, and I said the uglier or harder or darker things you look at, the more good things you're going to see. Well, these are the other kinds of things you'll see too. If you're spending all of your energy thinking about this bad thing that happened to you, you're missing the good thing that could happen to you. You just don't have the energy to allocate both. And you can't give that to other people either. If you are selling this victimhood story to someone because it's serving you in one way or another, you are missing the opportunity to show them who you actually are. You know, even if you took, even that person earlier, right? Even if they had told me their big, awful story, and I had said, you probably did that, it probably was your fault. What's the risk? Because they already heard that. They heard that a lot of times. And that, you know, it's not true. Like, they know the truth, and it wasn't their fault. And they didn't do the thing. So, for them to hear that it's low risk. What if this person had said to me, you know, I really want to, you know, be a police officer. And I had said, that's stupid. You don't look like you could ever get in the shape to be a police officer. That would hurt. The past? It's already happened. Nothing that I can say about it is going to change it. Nothing, you know, that anyone says about that experience is going to change how it was for you. You can grow and heal the past within yourself. But if you're waiting to take a leap on yourself, whether it's your career, I know most of the examples I gave were in your career, but it could be in your career, or maybe, you know, it's about your sexuality, or maybe it's about what you want in your family dynamic, or it could be anything. You know, it could even just be, you know, I love bird watching. That could be it. That could be, you know, your big vulnerability. You're embarrassed to share it. You love it and you have no one to share it with. And every time you go bird watching, you are alone. And meanwhile, your coworker who you see every day also loves bird watching. And you could be going together. Maybe you could fall in love out there, you know? Or just create a great friendship. And you don't know because you can't share something about yourself that isn't comfortable to share. If you are sharing it off the bat right away, that's because it's comfortable to share, even if it doesn't sound like it is. Fostering true connection is sharing what is uncomfortable to share. And it's not sharing it off the bat either. You know, give someone a chance to get to know you. Whether it's a friend, a potential partner, an employer, you know, whoever business partner, whoever it might be. If you were to imagine yourself as like a drawing or a painting, when you are just forming a connection with someone, do the outline. And so like we talked about earlier with astrology, which by the way, if you guys are interested in astrology, you should reply to Jesser because he's really smart about it. I don't know, Jesser, if you're offering any services right now, but if so, please feel free to drop it in the comments. But yeah, so like that could be a good thing to begin that bond with. Hi, I'm Lauren. I'm a Sagittarius. You know, like, it doesn't sound like this, you know, like you're gonna be, this might even be someone you already know. This can be someone that you know, that you've known a long time. Just because you've known a long time doesn't mean you have that connection yet, and you're always free to start it. So maybe it is just sharing, you know, these kind of basic things about yourself. And you know, also, I kind of mentioned attachment styles briefly earlier in the beginning. And attachment styles have a lot to do with, you know, how you are going to take in relationships, friendships, all of them, but especially romantic relationships. Yay! Yes. Contact Jesser. So, you know, it's funny because you might think it sounds way more cringy to like admit your attachment style in the beginning, but actually, like, that's actually a healthy way to be vulnerable. You know, it's not to say like hi, I have an anxious attachment style, I'm clingy, I'm needy, I'm going to be annoying to you. Because what is that? Self-deprecating. But it's totally fine to say, what was your childhood like? Yeah, in childhood, I had a totally different experience. So it's kind of like this. And so, like, do you find like that affects you now? Yeah, I feel like, whatever. Young, oh my gosh. Yes, Carl Jung. I recently did a dream interpretation uh course through like a Jungian. It's not just one person, it's like a whole platform. And I really want to bring dream interpretation into my practice on here. It's gonna come. I want to keep practicing with my own dreams for a little while first. So yeah, like, share these things about yourself. I would just say, catch yourself when you are trauma dumping, or as I like to say it, dumping your trash on people. And then when you actually trust someone, when you actually have fostered connection with someone, then feel free to share, these parts of yourself. Because when you share that with someone you don't know, what you're really doing is having an internal experience on your own. You're sending yourself back this message. You're saying, here's this awful part of you. Share it so people have a warning, or share it so that people feel sorry for you, or, share it so that you seem relatable. What if you were to connect so deeply with yourself that you know that you are worthy of showing up completely you? You could show up and totally be rich and fabulous and gorgeous and confident, and you could still have that same past you have now. You could have the worst, most traumatic history, and if you can reach that level of honesty and connection and depth within yourself, then you can show up 100%, and you can give people the best of you. And if those people are worthy, and if those people have your back and they make you feel good, then you can share the worst. I personally don't think there's anything we can't share. We just need to not make it our identity. Something bad that happened to us, or a mistake that we made, or something we don't like about ourselves. So I really want to spend so much more time talking about how to foster great connections in here. But I wanted this to just be kind of like a quick, I don't know if this seemed brief to you, but it was so brief to me given with everything that I have to say. Just sort of outline. I've said outline like 100 times today. I don't know what it's the word of the day. So that's kind of my little starter about, forming connection within yourself and forming healthy connections with others. If you have any specific sort of directions you'd like me to take this for a future one, definitely feel free to drop it in the comments. And it's definitely something I want to do in the future, to do more talks like this, or maybe like an entire course or something just for men, because I think that I have different information. I know so much of what I share in here is geared more towards women. I like to make it both, and today was a great example of one that I think is even across the board. But I definitely think that for this topic especially, is something that our society has done a disservice to men in just not really offering them the same space we've offered women. So if that's something that you're interested in, we can always do one-on-one coaching. If you see my profile on here, you can just shoot me a message, or actually what would be a better idea would be just to comment, DM me, because I feel like the Facebook messages are weird. Um, and we could definitely always talk about that. And hopefully we'll have a program like that in the future. It's something that's just always like, it's lit me up for a long time. I wanted to have a daughter both times I got pregnant, and both times I had a boy, and I said, what am I supposed to be learning here? And it was definitely this. I quickly found out. But yeah, so the other thing I wanted to just to mention again is our event. It's going to be amazing. So that is October 8th. And it is in Tennessee here. It's in a little town called Theta. And I've already kind of talked about it in here before. But if you missed it, we're going to be doing some of this sort of mindset coaching in a group setting. And I'm going to give everyone some information before the event so that you're prepared and you know kind of like where you want to start your conversation, because everyone's going to get a turn to speak. We'll also all of the opportunity to support each other. So I'll be coaching you. All of your sisters are going to be there to support you, to say, I've been there too, etc. We're also going to have an embodiment practice, and we will also have a like a breath work at the end. So it's going to be amazing. I have these beautiful little gift bags that are going to be intuitively assembled. So you'll just be getting what you need to get on the little gift bag. And I'll have snacks and everything. Tickets for this are $100. Now, I want to make sure everyone, especially in this group, knows always that if you ever need to work out like a payment plan or anything with me, that is always available to you. And if the ticket price is an issue for you, please just message me and we can talk about options to make it work. Because I can definitely work with you to make it happen if it is important to you. It's not like an automated website. I can set up, whatever will work best for us. So, anyway, thank you so much. I'm so excited to have you guys here, and I will see you next week. If I remember how to end this. Where's the end button? Oh, there it is. All right, bye, guys.